In the first episode, we looked at the United States, a place where marriage, for many men, is starting to feel risky, expensive, legally uncertain, emotionally draining. In the second episode, we looked at Europe, a place where marriage often feels less necessary. People still form relationships, still live together, still raise children, but marriage itself has weakened as the required path. East Asia is different. It may be the clearest warning for everyone else, because here many people still believe in marriage, and it is struggling anyway. Marriage did not become outdated. It became heavy. That is the key difference. In many parts of East Asia, marriage is still respected, families still value it, society still recognizes it. Many still see it as a meaningful milestone of adulthood, and that matters. Because when a society still believes in marriage, but fewer people can realistically enter it, the pressure becomes intense. Wanting something and being able to reach it are not the same thing. For many men, that gap has widened. Because in East Asia, marriage is often tied to a package deal, not just love. Housing, income, career stability, savings, status, parental approval, future childcare costs, education costs, long-term sacrifice. And in many places, men are still expected to carry a large share of that burden. Even in modern cities, even in highly educated societies. The language may have changed, but the expectation often remains. Be stable first. Earn enough first. Own something first. Prove yourself first. So for many men, marriage does not feel like one decision. It feels like 20 decisions bundled together, and all of them cost money. That changes behavior. Because when the entry cost becomes too high, people do not always rebel. They delay, quietly. They tell themselves, not yet, after I earn more, after promotion, after I move, after I save enough. And sometimes not yet lasts 10 years. Then suddenly they are in their late 30s, still waiting. This is one of East Asia's defining patterns. Not rejection, delay. And delay matters more than people think, because marriage has timing, fertility has timing, energy has timing, family formation has timing. When an entire generation delays together, the demographic consequences become severe, and East Asia knows this better than almost anywhere. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, China. Some of the world's lowest birth rates emerged in places where marriage became harder to enter. Not because people forgot family, because the path toward family became too steep. Let's start with housing. For many young men in East Asia, housing is not a side issue. It is the issue. A modest apartment can require years of income. Rent can erase savings. Ownership feels distant. And in cultures where housing still symbolizes readiness, that pressure becomes psychological. It is not only, I don't have a home, it becomes, I am not ready to be chosen. That distinction matters, because economic pressure becomes identity pressure. Then there is work. East Asia is known for discipline, productivity, and education. But behind that reputation is another reality. Long hours, high competition, credential pressure, burnout, career insecurity, constant comparison. Many men are not choosing career over marriage. They are trying to survive career first. And by the time survival becomes stable, the relationship market has changed. Age changed. Energy changed. Expectations changed. Time moved faster than expected. Then comes something more subtle. status expectation. In many East Asian cultures, men are still judged through provision, not always openly, not always maliciously, often quietly. What do you do? How much do you earn? Can you support a household? Can you buy a place? Can you take care of future parents and children? These questions may sound practical, but over time they become heavy. Because they tell men that love is conditional on performance. And once relationships start to feel like another exam, fatigue follows. But this pressure does not fall on men alone. Many women in East Asia carry their own version of it. Marriage can mean unequal domestic labor, career sacrifice, pressure from in-laws, childcare expectations, loss of freedom. So hesitation grows on both sides, and when both sides hesitate, timing begins to collapse. Now let's talk about China. Because China combines several pressures at once. Urban costs are high, competition is intense, work culture can be brutal, traditional expectations often remain strong. At the same time, China has long dealt with gender imbalance in some generations, leaving more men than women in certain age groups. From the outside, people assume that should simplify marriage markets. It often does not. In some rural regions, many men struggle to marry. In major cities, many women delay marriage. Many men also step back because the financial bar feels too high. So you get a paradox. A country with many men that still has many unmarried men and many unmarried women. Because population numbers alone do not create marriage. Economics, geography, class, and expectations matter more. People often imagine relationships like simple math. More men means harder competition. More women means easier pairing. Real life does not work that way. A man in a rural county is not competing in the same market as a professional in Shanghai. A woman delaying marriage in Beijing is not living the same reality as someone in a smaller city. East Asia often contains multiple marriage markets inside one country, and fragmentation creates frustration. People exist, but timing, location, class, and expectations do not align. South Korea shows another version of pressure. Marriage is still culturally meaningful, but housing costs, education pressure, work intensity, and gender conflict have become major barriers. Many men feel judged economically before they even begin. Many women feel marriage may bring unequal domestic burdens or career sacrifice. So both sides hesitate. And when both sides hesitate, the result can look like indifference. Often it is exhaustion. Japan shows a quieter version. Less dramatic conflict, more slow withdrawal. Long work culture, decades of economic stagnation, social reserve, and changing habits all contributed to later marriage and more single adults. Some men did not choose isolation. They slowly adapted to it. Work, hobbies, private life, low-risk comfort. And once a quiet life becomes stable enough, the motivation to disrupt it weakens. This is why East Asia matters, because it reveals something different from America or Europe. In America, men may step back because marriage feels risky. In Europe, men may step back because marriage feels optional. In East Asia, men often step back because marriage feels too heavy to lift. That weight can be financial. It can be cultural. It can be emotional. Usually, it is all three at once. And here is the tragedy of that structure. Many men in East Asia do not reject marriage in principle. Many still want love, still want family, still want children. That part never disappeared. What changed was the path toward it. But wanting becomes irrelevant when entry feels unreachable. That creates a painful outcome. Not rebellion, not liberation, blocked desire. So they adapt, they delay, work longer, lower expectations, spend on hobbies, stay with parents longer, live smaller lives, say maybe later, and later becomes never, quietly. This also changes women's behavior. When men delay, women delay. When women delay, men delay further. Trust weakens, timing narrows, standards harden, hope becomes cautious. Then society calls it selfishness. Often, it is structure. From the outside, East Asia can look highly successful. Safe cities, modern infrastructure, strong education, high order. But beneath that success, many young adults feel squeezed, and marriage becomes one of the first things sacrificed. Because when survival is expensive, long-term commitments become luxury goods. Marriage did not disappear, it became premium. And premium goods sell less when wages lag, stress rises, and confidence falls. That is where the birth crisis connects. If marriage is delayed, births are delayed. If marriage is blocked, births collapse. If relationships become another arena of pressure, people withdraw from the arena, quietly. When family becomes expensive, society gets lonely. So when you hear someone say, "They just don't want commitment," that may be true for some, but for many others, the truth is less dramatic. They wanted it. They just could not carry the weight. That is the East Asian version of male withdrawal. Not anger, not indifference, burden. In the next episode, we'll step back and look at the bigger picture. Because America, Europe, and East Asia all reached similar outcomes, through very different roads. And once you see that, you stop blaming individuals so quickly. You start looking at systems. So, we'll take a peek at that in the next episode. Thanks for watching.